Bitcoin is seeing some downside again today. Again, notice here, and this is something I want to go over to the big board and show you guys, is that
Bitcoin Zella stands out with its simplicity and clarity. We've crafted an experience that anyone can dive into, whether you're a crypto expert or just a new to the crypto world. Now, guess who keeps his eye on us? The author of best-selling book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And we want to take this opportunity and thank all the people who trusted us, and we read every comment. And the best part, it's free. Subscribing now means you will get all new information for free. Don't just follow the trends, stay ahead of them. Subscribe to Bitcoin Zella today and enjoy the new edge. In this video, let's discuss these topics and more.
everyone likes to say how the Federal Reserve is in control, they control interest rates, and they're partially true, or that's partially correct. It's not all the way correct. As long as things remain okay, then the Fed can control rates. The problem is that ultimately if things get crazy, like the U.S. debt continues to go nuts, no candidate for president is willing to even go near it and just wants to print, eventually the markets take over. Just like a parent comes in and says, no, this is going to be where rates are going to be. So the Fed can only do so much, and we're seeing it here with the Fed cutting rates and then rates actually going higher. Remember that, folks. The markets will eventually put the market or the system underneath its thumb and make it do what it wants to do at that point. All right, so this is your pre-market action. If we flip over to the daily chart, remember this orange line, okay? Remember this line. We're going to flip over now to the daily chart. This is showing yesterday's price action. It does not show the pre-market data. The reason why I want to draw your attention to this, look at this wedge pattern that I've shown you guys before. So we are in a very, very tight wedge pattern here. And again, just notice how price continued to kind of gyrate, getting tighter and tighter. Well, this was yesterday right here. We opened right on that line. I showed it to you. It was all the way over here on the intraday chart. This is where we opened. They actually saved the markets, or the markets held the wedge pattern. The tricky thing is, in the pre-market action, we're right down into that line again. At some point, and this is something I've talked about, and we're talking probabilities here, is that when you have upsloping wedges like this, right, and prices here, 7 out of 10 times, maybe even 7.5 or 75% of the time, price eventually breaks down. Likewise, on the other side, when you have downsloping wedges, generally 7.5 times out of 10, price breaks up. So in other words, generally this should break down at some point. But as I've explained to you guys in previous game plans, the key about the change in market direction, meaning that you could have a small pullback. I mean, that doesn't really do much. It's about the previous high, which is right here. So if you go back to that previous pivot high, it's around 565 on the SPY. That is the one you're watching. If we dip, do we hold this and go like this to 6,000 on the S&P, or does it break through, which would cause a much bigger downside move? All right, let's get back into these charts here, guys. I want to show you this here to be exact. I've shown this to you guys before, but looking at the charts, this is that previous major pivot high. Remember, yesterday in the game plan, I explained the difference between major and minor pivot highs, all right? The difference between major and minor.
Michael Saylor's recent comments on Bitcoin custody, advocating for large financial institutions over self-custody, sparked backlash. Critics argue that his stance supports his own interests rather than Bitcoin's decentralized principles. In a recent interview, Saylor dismissed fears of government Bitcoin seizures, labeling self-custody advocates as paranoid crypto-anarchists, and suggesting that institutional custody offers greater security. Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin called Saylor's stance insane, arguing that relying on regulatory capture undermines crypto's core decentralized values. Critics like Casa co-founder Jameson Lopp believe Saylor's push for institutional control benefits his company's massive Bitcoin holdings rather than promoting financial freedom. Lopp and others warn that centralizing Bitcoin custody could limit innovation and increase the risk of government seizure, countering the original vision of decentralization. Saylor's controversial views have ignited a debate over whether institutional adoption or self-custody better protects Bitcoin's future.
What you have going on with Bitcoin continues to confirm it's a risk asset. And why do I say that? Well, yesterday on Bitcoin, remember in the pre-market when I did the game plan, Bitcoin was down. But then the stock market opened down and floated up and actually ended up closing flat, and the NASDAQ closed slightly positive. What did Bitcoin do? Came back to the flat line and closed slightly positive. So same exact price action. today, stock market's down, Bitcoin's down as well. But watch today. If the stock market continues to sell, my guess is Bitcoin continues lower. If we get a float on the stock market, then you probably float back up. Now, what are your key levels to watch on Bitcoin? You have your 65K. See this orange line right here? You're connecting this high pivot through this high pivot. That's giving you a short-term technical support. Now, if this is really going to break out, this level needs to hold. All right, now I am actually slightly optimistic. Maybe it can break because of all this debt issues, right? So, I mean, if you think about the case, at least for me, and I can only speak for myself, but one of the reasons why I like Bitcoin on the long term is it does give us an alternative to fiat currencies, something that we know can't be printed to oblivion, right? So that's the idea there. So it needs to hold this 65, and then you need to see a move up. Notice right here, it broke above the level. I talked about this yesterday. They basically fooled everyone, not us, if you know confirmation. It got above, didn't confirm, and then it pulled the rug out from all of those people that got excited, jumped on board, and then it pulled it out. And this is one of the things I talked about yesterday. There's a tendency for the market to want to lure in the most amount of people, then flush them out, and then make it go in that direction. I mean, it's just the nature of markets overall to do these type of things. It always seems like, oh, is it a maneuverability? Is it something that the computers, the institutions are doing? There might be some aspect of that, but overall markets have just behaved like this because of human psychology for, centuries at this point. All right, so that's our level there. If we break the 65, you head back to your major pivot line. If that breaks, that would be bad. All right, this you want to hold if you're a strong bull and you're looking for a breakout. If it doesn't hold, it's not the end of the world, but that's the ideal. Hits here and holds, okay, still neutral to bullish, still bullish bias. If it breaks this and confirms, going down here and probably going a lot lower. So you got your levels here. If we break above 68 and confirm, 74, and then probably in the 80s is a very good possibility. All right. Now, yesterday we talked about gold. Gold had that topping tail. It looked like it was going to get negated. It did get negated. And yesterday I was doing some research. I was actually doing my commodities video. Right? For my members, Smart Money Commodities. And I was looking at, I was like, all right, wait, so they negated the topping tail, they negated that level, but what else could be up here? And then I was just playing around in the video with members and looking at different lines, and I'm like, holy cow, look at this parallel. So if you look at the parallel, you take low, low, and lows right here, and you stretch it up. And what tells you it's important is the fact that it goes right to this low, it then hit, consolidated, broke lower, hit, and pulled back. So right away, that's showing you there's some sort of factor there. But then, even more so, it rallies up, pulls back. Hits here, pulls back. The idea is this is your new key level, 2760. We kissed it in the overnight here, already pulling back. Listen, the first thing I'll say is I remain long-term bullish on gold. You see the candidates, and they don't, they're just going to print to oblivion. Even on CNBC this morning, I flipped it on, and they were talking about how the only way out of our debt scenario is to print, and essentially monetize the debt, right? And that's where you just print so much that inflation makes the debt basically 36 trillion, which is what we're almost at, I believe, would be the equivalent of like 3 trillion because they print so much. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm hearing this. But again, you look at what's happened to society, and I don't mean to get off on a tangent here, but you have one side where people that don't have investments have been crushed by inflation, and so you have a bifurcated, a kind of a dual stretch here where you have people that don't have investments getting crushed because they have no way to compensate for inflation, while the high end is getting richer and richer, right? And that's essentially what they're talking about needs to happen. And it's just unfortunate to see that we're at that point where we've kind of made our bed and we have to lay in it. The key is if we can swing trade and we can do this type of stuff, I do believe we can maneuver through this and do very well for ourselves. Either way, gold right here, guys, pulling back just a shade. We'll continue to follow that, but I do still anticipate a pullback. I am short GDX. I am short gold as well, so looking for a pullback.
Iranian Ambassador Kazem Jalali has urged Bryce's nations to establish an independent financial and banking system, free from Western standards, which he claims harm global South countries. Speaking ahead of the 16th Bryce's Summit, Jalali emphasized the need for Bryce's members to create their own financial mechanisms, offering fairer alternatives to Western-imposed regulations. A Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, official has emphasized the importance of high regulatory standards for crypto asset registrations. She defended the UK's stringent rules, aiming to protect consumers and financial markets, while fostering a competitive crypto sector. The regulator warned against relaxing standards, advocating instead for collaboration to build a secure foundation for sustainable innovation in the crypto space. On October 20, 2024, Bitcoin's price broke past the $69,000 mark, leaving many in the market eager to see what's next. With the 2024 U.S. elections approaching, Bitcoin (BTC) prices could swing unpredictably, given the speculation surrounding the face-off between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. As prices continue to rise, we gathered several generative artificial intelligence chatbots and posed a question. What might happen to Bitcoin's price after voters decide between Trump and Harris? If you've been with us so far, a big thank you. Don't forget to subscribe for free to Bitcoin Zella for your daily news. The link is waiting below. That's all for today's crypto news. Stick around for more updates, insights, and analysis on cryptocurrencies. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more exciting content.